I got down to this moment where the movie was going to begin to be shown in front of hundreds of eyes, that I was going to step back a bit and just go, okay, I'm going to ride out these next few days, and I don't want the whole thing completely spoiled for me, even if I know how the movie plays out, which is going to be really difficult. The Hollywood premiere takes place tomorrow night on Monday night, and then Tuesday there will be press screenings, even though the reviews have been embargoed until midnight on Wednesday. I'll be seeing it on Thursday, so I'm sure that I'll see some reviews, which I'm curious to see what people think up front. But I'm going to do my best to keep myself from being too spoiled about this movie, at least any more than I already am. There's been a lot of talk about how much money it's going to make, how big it's going to be. I have an article right here in front of me. Star Wars premiere street closures are bigger than the Oscars. So while Star Wars The Force Awakens world premiere doesn't take place in Hollywood until Monday night, the construction of the massive tent on Hollywood Boulevard is underway. 4 blocks of the iconic street from Highland Avenue to La Brea Avenue were already closed off to traffic on Thursday night at 11 p.m. On Friday, a large white tent was being erected on the boulevard, which hosts the famous Hollywood stars on its sidewalk. As construction continued Friday afternoon, traffic officers stood on either end of Highland and La Brea to direct and divert traffic. This is definitely bigger than the Oscars. The Oscars held at the end of February closed down 1 block. Disney and Lucasfilm have not officially told guests which theaters will be used for the Hollywood premiere. The blocks of Hollywood Boulevard that are closed include 3. The Dolby, where the Oscars are held, the El Capitan Theater, and the TCL Chinese Theater. So they're keeping it under wraps over which theater is going to be showing the movie. I can't help but wonder if they're not going to be doing the premiere at all of them, right? To make this even more unique. And with this world premiere looming, as I try to work through my own emotions and feelings, I wonder if that's the reason why I feel a sense of uneasiness. I'm not going to lie. I feel very uneasy today. I think part of it has to do with I took a couple days off of work last week, and I always feel uneasy whenever I do that. I have some other things work-related on my mind right now, and I just have this sense of unease, but I also think part of it is I know that once the alarm goes off tomorrow morning, it's game on. That movie is going to be shown in front of a bunch of people. People are going to be witnessing this. I mean, regular people are going to be witnessing this, and I'm wondering if all of the secrets that they've tried to keep hidden are going to be able to remain hidden. I wonder what other people are going to say. There's so much hype leading up to the world premiere on Monday night. And with everything that's been shown and all the positive buzz over everything we've seen surrounding this movie, is there any way to avoid the inevitable backlash that is going to come? This movie is, and Star Wars itself is such a part of the fabric on a global scale of our conscious, of our of pop culture. It really is an amazing entity, and the fact that we are about to step out into and visit this galaxy again, where a lot of us felt like we never would again, and having gone through what everybody went through with Phantom Menace, regardless of whether or not you like the prequels or not, there was a lot of hype leading up to it, up to the Phantom Menace. But what's funny? People say that the hype for the Phantom Menace was as much as it is now. I don't agree with that at all. The hype leading up to this movie feels much, much bigger. There was a sense and a lot of hype surrounding the lead up to the Phantom Menace, but it doesn't even compare to what we are all feeling right now. And I think it's because of the Phantom Menace that this is a lot more intense. Because I think the expectation going into The Phantom Menace was that we were going to get Star Wars again, that we already knew. And we didn't. We got a different kind of Star Wars. I liked it, but we did get a different type of Star Wars. We did not get the same Star Wars that we got in the original trilogy. And this time, everybody is feeling like we're going to get that Star Wars again. They've been showing 9 minutes of footage to some press individuals, and there was a guy who does I don't know his first name. His last name is Steele. He does a podcast. I believe he's Australian. I watched a video of him today, and he got to see 9 minutes of the movie, and the guy was almost in tears over what he would seen. He goes, "That was Star Wars. That was absolutely Star Wars." And it's been fun to go back and watch the original trilogy, and to a lesser extent the prequels. But since I've been working through the original trilogy and knowing we're getting this movie, there's a new freshness to the original trilogy that I hadn't felt in a long time. And the one thing that I pin most of my hopes on and my expectations on, kind of going with, is there any way to avoid inevitable backlash in all this? There are going to be people who are there are going to be individuals who are going to be negative about this movie, regardless of how good it is. That's just going to happen. There's just no way that you can satisfy everybody. Okay. But the reason that I have so much confidence in this film is something that J.J. Abrams said early on. And that is when he and Lawrence Kasdan and Kathleen Kennedy got together to talk about what this story was going to be. We still don't know how much of George Lucas and his story ideas made it into the film. George hasn't alluded much to that, except to say they didn't use my ideas, but that was before he saw the movie. And he's come out and said that he really liked it. He says this is what the fans really want. And I'll kind of double back to that because there's something about that I want to talk about for a moment. But J.J. Abrams has said over and over again that they started off the script writing process by asking the question, not the who is Luke Skywalker question, but what do we want to feel? What do we want to feel watching this movie? And to me, that's the right way to go about it, because that's what Star Wars was. That's what that music evokes. It was a feeling. It was fun. There was adventure, amazing spaceships and battles and action, but it was a story that you could still relate to, that had a lot of feeling and emotion behind it. And it's something you don't get in a lot of films these days. J.J. Abrams does, and that's one of the things he does best. The moment in Super 8 where she visits the boy's room and he's watching the 8mm video of his mom, and the girl says, "No, leave it, leave it up." And she gives her emotional speech about what happened the day that his mom died and how his dad drank and didn't come into work, and his mom went and replaced him, and that's when she got killed in the accident. Man, there was so much emotion in that moment. And that is something that was lacking in the original, in the prequel trilogy, but it's still there in the original trilogy. Because the only part of the prequel trilogy that I actually cried over was Order 66. Well, no, that's not true. Order 66, and I got pretty teary-eyed right before the battle between Obi-Wan and Anakin at the end when he and Padme were arguing. But Order 66, that one made me tear up. This time around, for a number of different reasons, I know that I'm going to have to bring a box of tissues with me because I'm probably going to be just an emotional sap all day long, right? I know that I am. I was watching a trailer the other night and it almost brought me to tears, for crying out loud. Just thinking about it for a moment. Like, I'm not a kind of person that can cry on cue, but I can make myself cry thinking about Star Wars. I am man enough to admit it. And if J.J. Abrams went into this movie wanting to make us all feel something, then I know that it's going to be even worse in this film. To me, the big question is whether or not they were able to tap into that same mythology that George Lucas created, because that's what made all this work. That's what made the original Star Wars work. I've been watching a lot of the documentaries about the original trilogy, and I love watching documentaries. But the amount of homework that George did in crafting the universe, it was enough of world building in tapping into those ancient legends and the mythology, that anybody, I would think that anybody could come along and continue on that trend just based off of what George did. Certainly we saw that in Empire Strikes Back. He built the foundation off of those myths and legends. But it seems as if J.J. Abrams and Lawrence Kasdan are continuing the legacy, if you will, and the Skywalker story, but they may be doing some of their own myth building. And I'm wondering if they are going to, or if they did, continue to tap into what George created in that original Star Wars movie when he originally wrote that, when he looked at the writings of Joseph Campbell, when he looked at the old mythology of King Arthur and Beowulf and drew on those archetypes. I'm wondering, it certainly seems that way. I mean, based off of the design aesthetic, based off of what we know about the Knights of Ren, and the fact that they're keeping this dark side, light side. I hope they bring it back around. I mean, it's something that was missing, and we talked about this in previous podcasts. It's something that was missing from the prequel trilogy. Those were more like superheroes with the Jedi. It looks like this movie is bringing it back to the Force as this mysterious thing that not everybody is aware of, but it is there, and bringing back a sense of mystery to it. Now, I do want to mention this. And again, I heard somebody make a quick passing comment about this. I think it was yesterday. I don't remember what I was watching. But again, somebody made a comment and I went, oh, I hadn't really thought about that. But when you think about the original trilogy, Han Solo was never really the focus. He was there. He was one of the big three, but it was never really about him. Because he didn't really have the attachment, right? He didn't have the attachment to the Force. He was the one that didn't believe it in the original movie. And he was always sort of the doing that thing with my fingers, the voice of reason, moving through the trilogy. Now, the second movie, certainly, he took more of a central role with the romance element with Princess Leia. But the story was always about Luke Skywalker, and Han Solo was in the background. And in The Force Awakens, at least it appears so far, especially with Luke Skywalker missing from all of the marketing of the film and the central theme of the movie being about finding him because they need him, Han Solo has now taken center stage. And what I found interesting in this person's comment was alluding to the fact that, they wonder if George ever would have done that. If George would have ever pushed Han Solo to the forefront and made him in a new trilogy to the original trilogy, if he would have still been the focus, or if it would have been, he still would have been more of sort of second tier to Luke, because it really appears that he's going to be, front and center. Now, that being said, I think that Luke is going to take more of a center stage come episode 8 and moving through to 9, but I really do believe this new sequel trilogy is going to be the building of these characters in Poe Dameron, Finn, and Rey, and them carrying on the legacy moving forward as we sort of slowly begin to back away from that original cast. And that's got to be scary for Disney, because in the prequel trilogy, we still had our characters that we knew. We were introduced to new characters, but we had Anakin who turns into Darth Vader. You had Obi-Wan Kenobi. You had Yoda. But as we move forward, those were all characters that George created. These are new characters that somebody else is creating. And even though you had other directors that were attached to Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, they were still being based upon characters that George created. Now we potentially could have brand new characters created by somebody else, and will they be able to do what George did in creating those original strong characters? I want to believe so. George isn't the only creative element out there, and I think it couldn't be in any better hands than J.J. Abrams and Lawrence Kasdan, and certainly we've seen new characters be created in Clone Wars to a certain extent, Rebels to a bigger extent that have totally worked. I really enjoy all of those new characters. But, Disney has to set everything up just right to keep Star Wars as relevant as it is, because they're not going to always have those original characters to draw from. And because of that, if they don't knock it out of the park on Monday night, on Thursday, and